Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's breakfast somewhere, so eat up. Welcome to Breakfast with Vinny. Food for thought. My guest today is someone who has influenced me greatly and influenced all of us. He came to prominence in the late 70s with Herbie Hancock and the seminal recording Actual Proof, which made history. He's changed drumming. He's been a sideman with many, many different artists and a band leader as well. Please welcome to the show the great Mike Clark. Hey, Mike, thanks for coming, man.
Vince, thanks for having me. I'm honored, man. And it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it is, man. This has been a long time coming. I haven't seen you in so long. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I saw you, but I'll tell you what, one memory really sticks in my mind. And I can't remember where we were. And I'll never forget this. It might have been in an airport or something, I think, or maybe it was one of those trade shows. Anyway, this was, for some reason, we had sticks there, and you picked up the sticks, and maybe I was showing you sticks or something. I can't remember. And you started playing doubles, and I went, "Stop! Wait a second! Stop right there!" I said, "I can't believe what I'm seeing." You're like, "What?" And I just said, "Man, you're the only other person I've ever seen in my life who, when they play doubles with their left hand, the ring finger drops off the stick and comes back up to lift it up." I said, "I thought I was the only person that did that." Yeah, and I said, I thought I was something I had to correct. I said, "Thank you for yeah, man. I've never seen anybody else do that. It was great,
I remember we
remember
were
that?
yeah, we were in Atlanta at a trade show, and you were playing with Jeff Berlin, and I was standing there with Louis Belson, and I'd never heard you before. And both Louis and I were like, "Whoa, this dude is bringing it, man." It was great. Yeah.
Okay, now I remember that was in '82. Well,
Yeah.
we're going back away now. Okay, I remember that very well. It was a NAMM show in Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Yeah, and Scott Henderson was playing guitar.
Scott was playing, and when I moved into another area in the another booth, I ran into Buddy Miles, the drummer. Buddy Miles, man. Yeah,
Oh,
I know.
man.
I did a record with that dude.
You kidding? I had no idea.
So
I met
it
him
was,
once at his house in Hollywood. You did a record with him?
yeah, it was Miles's wife Betty Davis, and I played drums, and Buddy played guitar.
Unbelievable. I didn't know Buddy played guitar. I mean, I knew that he sang.
I didn't
That's
either.
amazing. What was that like?
It was killing. It was ridiculous. She had some young kids that were not quite pro, but they were solid enough. And then Buddy came in, and I've known Buddy from before around Oakland and a few parties and a hotel that we both used to stay in, and this, that, and I didn't know him that well, but man, he brought it, man, Texas style. And I was like, "Yes, sir." He was chanking.
Wow.
Yeah, they're great.
That's amazing. Of course, you figured that he would. I mean, he just had it in him, I mean, I'll never forget the first time I heard Band of Gypsies. I mean, there's some records, a lot of records that change people's lives. It's kind of like you remember where you were when some big world event happened, right? I remember the first time I heard Band of Gypsies, man. I was on a school bus, and it just came on, the first track came on, and I just went, "What? What?" Yeah. And Buddy, because it was a completely different experience with Buddy and with that band and Billy Cox, and Buddy's pocket, and oh man, it's unbelievable. That's amazing. I mean, I'm sure this is the kind of stuff that people probably don't realize about you, that you actually did a record with Buddy Miles. I would love to hear that, man. Seriously, I had no idea. We all know what you have done and how your playing has revolutionized drumming. We all know that. And we all know the specific turning point where it happened for most of us that we can recognize it. But these things are amazing. Like, didn't you also play with Joe Henderson, right?
I played a lot with Joe and Bobby Hutcherson and Chet Baker and I I came at the Headhunters gig through jazz, not through funk. So I'm kind of backwards than, like, say, Buddy Miles. Although I did want to add this: the first time I heard them changes, I damn near passed out. It hit me so hard. I know where I
Right?
was first time I heard that too. I was in a motel in some band I was in the middle of, like, California somewhere,
Yeah.
northern. And my girlfriend said, "Hey, listen to this." She just bought the record, and the first track she played was them, and I damn near went down, bro. It took my breath away.
Right? It's like there's so much music that did that to us. And I don't think it's just because we were young and, first time you hear something when something is that seminal and that powerful and that different, I mean, you're a budding musician who has good sensibilities and aspirations and talent or whatever it is, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. It just is,
It's
you
like
know?
James Brown hit us. I mean, all of that with Melvin Parker playing drums before Clyde and Jabbo, Coltrane, Miles with Tony, Miles with Philly. And you know what? The one that really blew me away was Miles with Jimmy. Well, anybody with Jimmy Cobb, like Smoking at the Half Note West, all that stuff, Wynton Kelly and Jimmy Cobb. That used to do the same thing to me that Buddy Miles did. Or
Jimmy's
James.
Groove, right? Jimmy's Groove. I mean, come on. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you, man. So these were like some of your biggest influences, right? These were the guys that shaped you and your musical sensibilities, right? I mean, you were coming from there.
Yeah, I was. I started when my father was a drummer, and he wasn't a very good. We lived in McKeesport, bro,
Get out of
Pennsylvania.
here.
I did. I went to one
Yes,
year.
that's why you get that ring finger. That's a Pennsylvania thing, man.
It's a
That's not
Pennsylvania
far from
thing.
that's not far from where I grew up. So there you go. See?
Okay, I knew that. I knew that. And and Jeff Tate Watts, he's from
Right.
there, you know. And
Blakey,
yeah,
Earl
woo,
Garner,
yeah, Richie
George
Good,
Benson.
a bunch of great guys, man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so my dad was a drummer, so there was always a drum set, and he listened to uh, Louis Prima and Benny Goodman and Basie and Duke and Sarah, and he didn't listen to modern stuff, but the big band and he liked blues like Wynonie Harris Jump stuff, and um, Ray McKinley and this type of thing. So he was blasting this for his party music, and then so I was a Gene Krupa drummer at 5 years old. I tried to
Okay, so
play.
Gene was probably like the first guy you heard, maybe.
I think so. Lionel Hampton, Zooty Singleton, and Gene Krupa, Buddy and Louie, because there was 2 albums and two 45s, and they had 4 tracks on each of those very drummers we just mentioned. And Skin
Mhm.
Deep, I heard when I was maybe 5 or 6, And so
Wow.
I was one of those. I was going for that, and he took me to see Louis Prima, and I met Bobby Morris and Paul Ferrara, 2 great drummers. And they had some hands.
Yeah.
These guys were and the badass shuffle, as you know. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
and
Oh,
forget
yeah,
it.
the
I was
numbers like
like,
that stuff. Oh, the Louis Prima stuff, forget it. I mean, that's some Italian stuff there. I don't know what it is, man.
there's some Italian stuff that got from New
I
Orleans.
mean, huh?
They were all from New Orleans. Butera,
See?
the drummer, and Paul Ferrara was later played with Al Hurd Jumbo, and he also became the president of the Musicians Union in New Orleans. And he was
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, because Earl Palmer was an officer in the Musicians Union out here in LA. I remember that. I used to go to the union back in the day, way back in the day. We'd all go down there, wait in line to pick up checks, and like you'd see these guys that you knew who were doing all the jingles and all the dates that paid the residuals because they'd be walking out with a pile of checks. And you'd show up, you newbie, with your 2 little checks, and you're hoping nobody saw you.
That's great. I've actually been to that union and picked up a check for Mike Clark, which I thought was me. And then I went and I checked in. Hancock had us check into the Sunset Marquee, and I'm like, I've never really done an LA record date. I wonder why they gave me this check, because I had gone to the union with Herbie. That's how this started. And he said, "Oh, this is Mike Clark." And she says, "Oh, I think I have a check." So as I'm waiting to check in, there's a dude in front of me, and he goes up and he says, "My name is Mike Clark." And I'm like, and it's the drummer with the birds, bro. And I had I put it right there. I'm like, oh man. Oh, what?
Oh no.
My God.
Oh
Anyway.
man. Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny.
Oh, yeah. That was
Oh,
of
man.
course my street nature sort of won over. I'm sorry to say I was young. I was like, sorry, brother. Oh God. A deuce in those days. This is 1970. A lot of bread. I think I bought a Cadillac the next day, or some.
Yeah, brand new, right? Oh man, it's so funny. So wait a minute. So okay, so now we're jumping a little bit here, but you said the magic. No. You said the magic word. You said Hancock. So
alumni.
we're gonna go right there. We're gonna go right there. Okay, this is one of those things for me now. I mean, I could speak for myself in a way that is like what you were telling me when you first heard. Let me tell you, when I first heard Actual Proof, I don't think I understood what was going on. I had to pick myself up off the floor. It took about a week later. I mean, first it was the first Headhunters that I had heard. I mean, mind you, I'd been following Herbie, who was one of my biggest heroes ever, like yours, I'm sure. And through his whole entire career, from Miles to everything else that he did. And so, I heard the first Headhunters with Chameleon and loved all that. And then when Thrust came out, this really did my head in, and because Actual Proof obviously is a staple for all of us musicians for decades now. It still is, and for good reason. It will always be. And that's a seminal thing. And I mean, you got to tell me. I mean, I'm going to jump right into Actual Proof. I have to do this.
Sure.
Because, what you did, actually, I take that back, because I think that how you affected us on Actual Proof was probably a result of this super funk thing that you you pretty much invented. I mean, I think that the first time I heard that stuff was from you and from Garibaldi, and I think that a lot of that stuff seemed to have come out of the Bay Area around that time. So how did you okay, so I'm backtracking again. Before, I couldn't wait to jump into Actual Proof, but
go ahead. It's cool. I'm good, Vince. Go ahead.
Really, yeah, because there's a lot more going on in Actual Proof than just the super funk. When you guys start blowing, forget it. It goes to the moon. But I mean, this whole super funk thing. I mean, how did it occur to you? Was it something that just came to you, or was it a product of what you were exposed to at the time? And you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I've often wondered about this stuff, like who was the first person to play Boogaloo? You know what I mean? Nobody really knows. People will say, "Oh, well, it came from the Amen break." See, there's this record. It's called the Amen break, and that's the first time. Well, that may be the first recorded example, but who started playing? Who started that? And how come every kid that sits down at a drum set, that's the first thing that they do? It's like, what is it, a law of nature or something? You know what I mean? So I'm I'm just wondering, like, this whole super funk. I mean, when I heard you do it, I'm like, dang, man, where's this guy getting this stuff from,
Well, first of all, I'm honored that you liked it, because you're one of the greatest drummers in the world, anywhere, in any bag, all day long. But I will say this. I spent My early years, like 18 years old, trying to make a living. And so I was a natural for organ trios, and there were a lot of them. So this is how it started. I was in organ trios, and then somehow the club owner liked me because I could really play good dice. There used to be these games, ship captain and crew, boss dice, and I was bad. And he was too. And after the gigs, we'd go head to head at the bar, you know what I mean? And he'd be like, come on, Mike, let's play liar's dice, boss dice, ship captain. I was killing. And so was he. And so he said, hey, you got a band? And I lied and said, yeah. And he said, well, can you start 3 nights a week this Thursday? And I said, absolutely. So I called a really good organ player and and we were in there for almost 4 years, Vinny. And then they put a Sunday jam session, excuse me. And we played all Jimmy Smith, Grady and Kenny Burrell. We played bebop for days because the guitar player knew every tune ever written in every key. He was one of those. The organ player had a heck of a bass line. He could really swing, and he could also play a ripping shuffle. And I'd been to Texas and was forced to learn to play the Texas shuffle by almost threats of violence in those days. So this served me well over the years. So anyway, so I was on that gig damn near 4, and it was my gig. And so night by night, we were playing boogaloo, mostly swing, but boogaloo, you know, West Montgomery, tequila, bumping, all this stuff. Everybody was changing, and Walking in Space, Quincy Jones, da-da-da. So we're playing boogaloo, and I was been into Max Roach since the 7th grade. Was a big Max Roach. Before school, I would go out there and play in the garage with Clifford and Max before school, you know, and he was my guy. And then Philly Joe was doubled down on poetry. He took Max's stuff and his poetry. I'd be like, how did he think to make those changes? I knew what he was doing, kind of, because I could play a lot of Louis Bellson stuff when I was a kid trying to play Skin Deep and all this type of thing. So I had some hands, you know, and so I could kind of do what they were doing, but the poetry was blowing my mind, and the ride cymbal, like, oh my God. So, okay, so I'm into that, and I'm thinking, this boogaloo thing is boring the hell out of me, and I'm drinking because I'm young, and you know, and on the gig, and night by night I go from tack to boom bat tap, and pretty soon boom bat boom bat. I put cat and then my friend Ray Torres, who was the funkiest drummer I've ever heard, him and Purdy there's no way to compare those two. They're right there. And he was a mentor of mine. And he was the first guy I heard play over the bar in a funk situation. And he was an organ trio guy from Texas. And he had a dirty, filthy shuffle. And he would play fills that never started on one, never landed on one. And he would even play double stroke rolls kind of fast, like, and end on the cymbals, like 2, boom, in a fairly loud band, and it would hold water. I'd be like, that's hard to do. His hands were like vice grips. He was a big guy. So I went off the track. So anyway, night by night.
Not at all.
Okay, I'm adding like, first is bat. First is cat. Cat, you know, cat, and then cat with the foot. Then pretty soon, bap, boom, bop, you know, Philia, live at the Apollo 1. He was the first bap cat I ever heard, but I'm not saying he was the first because some guy in the garage was doing it somewhere. But then I started saying on these, bap, and I thought, wait a minute, I can keep playing in between like a tambourine. And then I just went off and started trying like the Elvin thing that everybody plays fast. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Bass right left, and then everybody goes real fast. I did slow, like a hi-hat, snare, bass, like, and then I would speed it up. And then I would use my Roy Haynes at the in between, you know, and on and on and on, night after night, 3.5 years. And pretty soon I had a thing going on, I guess. And Paul Jackson enters, and he had a thing going on too, and both and we went, bam, this is way before Herbie, and we were like, whoa. And we could do it on straight ahead or funk. It didn't matter because he played all upright bass in those. He didn't even own an electric bass. So we had a little jazz trio with an older guy playing piano. Anyway, that's kind of how it happened. And then once I met, and also on the 12/8 ballads with the singers, every once in a while we'd have a chick singer that could really sing with soul. So, back there, that cat. And then pretty soon, and man.
I love it. I love it. Man, this is so rich because, first of all, you talk about organ trios, and I'm like, man, I did the same thing, man. There's another thing. You and I, man, organ trios, man, a lot of organ stuff. That was pretty big in Pennsylvania. It was big, right? And but then, what you were talking, you said then I started going, and I'm thinking that sounds like the beginning of linear drumming. It really does. And then you're saying, well, maybe some guy in the garage did it before. That's what Papa Joe Jones said on his. Did you ever hear his record that he did called The Drums?
I don't think so.
He did a double album called The Drums. And it's basically like a narrative. It's like a historical / educational narrative. And I actually have a copy of it, a vinyl copy of it.
Is this where he's talking?
Yeah, he's talking and stuff. And he talks about people that he met along the way. He would say, like these people that he met in his travels, like, that just had these like nicknames, like there was a Chauncey and he played thusly, and he would explain how they played, and and of course, thing that I'm starting to think about is, okay, maybe that's where that came from, right? Nobody ever heard of this guy, and he probably never left the town that he was in. Meanwhile, Papa Joe was just blowing through town. He picked some stuff up from this guy, right? You see what I mean? Now,
I do.
We see the dissemination of information instantly because of the internet, right? But back then, it filtered in different ways. But that's an amazing chronology you just unloaded there, Mike. That's amazing. Because see, I knew that Paul Jackson, he played upright, and I mean, he sort of, that informed his electric bass playing too. I mean, obviously, in a way that he played, really unique lines, the way that he played. And so I'm sure as a drummer, you guys probably spurred on a lot of ideas that, right, you may not have thought of,
First of all, you're right. It is regional, and traveling all over as a young musician, I've worked my whole life, especially in my 20s and 30s, in non-famous bands until I met Herbie. Well, except for Joe Henderson, those guys. But this was traveling in your car from state to state, and you'd hear a drummer in the Holiday Inn, and he'd have something going on. You'd be like, I'm going to add a little of that. Or I played a lot of blues gigs, so I played with a lot of the famous blues guys when they weren't that famous. And there were drummers there in Texas, a guy named Daryl Norris. This is kind of cute. This will blow your mind. Daryl could play with one hand, and it wasn't Buddy Rich, and it wasn't Moeller. This is who this guy was. He could go like this. I'm going to sing it slow. He could go, and I have proof of it. It's on a record with Delbert McClinton, who I worked with Delbert a lot when I was young, in Fort Worth at the Tracer Club. This guy could be like, one hand now. Okay, the hi-hat, just regular old tat, 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 not three of them, and filling in with the foot, all of them. But it'll be like this. Goodbye, Joe. You gotta boom, 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 all the way, and strong enough to chop a tree down right through the amplifier, and we'd be like, what? And Daryl used to come over to my house because we were both jazz freaks, and so when he played a single stroke roll, but he was like crash. He'd be like, oh my God. So, but he was this kind of dude. I'd be like, Daryl. Yeah, I have my practice pad. Can you show me, how do you do that thing with one hand, man? I mean, is there some trick to it? And he goes, here's his answer. Oh, I don't know, Mike. I'm just trying to put on a pot of stew. I'm like, get out of my house, Daryl. Get out. Don't
Put
come
on a
near my
pot of stew.
Stu, S-A. Woo! And he could play drums like that. Oh my
Oh,
God.
man.
And he
Oh,
didn't study nothing.
unbelievable.
He just could do it. He could do it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, you would think that after a while, necessity being the mother of invention, that he probably would think, well, I want to do this. I'm going to have to practice it, but he could just do it. There was a friend of mine many years ago. It's been quite a few years since he's passed away. May he rest in peace. He was a beautiful human being. And you may remember, I don't know if you remember Joe Ascioni? You remember Joe?
Oh, yeah,
New York.
sure.
New York.
Indeed.
Right. What a sweetheart, right? Joe was the first guy that I've seen. And now there's this new whole thing of, trying to, sort of break your nervous system's limits and all of this sort of stuff by playing like, like butterfly wing fast, I mean, hummingbird fast. But Joe did that. This was like 20 years ago, at least 30 years ago. He had there was a little videotape of him circulating around on the internet back then, black and white, and it was just called Tremor. And Joe could do that where each hand was playing like, I mean, I'm talking like that kind of speed. He would get it so each hand was like, I mean, literally that fast, like even, and then put them together, okay, and then separate them so that the singles sounded like a buzz roll. So anyway, the reason I'm bringing it up is because, so I said, Joe, that's amazing, how do tell me, just curious. And he goes, my whole family can do that. He said, my father's not even a drummer, and he could pick up a tool, some kind of like a hammer or a freaking jack handle, and put it up against the wall and go, and he goes, my sister can do it. And I think his sister could do it before he could.
Wow.
And she didn't play drums either. She could just do it. So it was some kind of nerve thing ability that they had. So nowadays people are saying, oh, you could break through that and you can develop it. And
I don't know.
That's all well and good. And I mean, that's not something for me. I mean, I'm sort of like, I just want to play music, but I'm like,
yeah,
go ahead. You got it, man.
Yeah.
I just think that, that stuff is great. I mean, for what it is, what it is. But like if we're going to just focus solely on playing a bass drum so fast that it starts sounding like a car engine or with one foot, or it starts like the vibrations are so quick, you're going to start playing notes. Then it's kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I need to focus on, what the drums do and in music.
Our age group and our
still
generation,
trying to figure it out.
Than me, but we're in the same zone. I think the beauty of what a guy did was where he put it inside the music and how it all came. That's when Louie and I were listening to you. What you were doing inside the music was profound. It was
thank you, Mike.
You over the bar, and this. There's not even any words for it. I don't even want to know what it was. It just rocked me out, man. And Louis too. Louis Bilson was just like. In fact, he said, "I got to tell Vinny to lighten up, man." Yeah, he loved it.
God rest his soul. He's the maestro, man. Well, you're flattering me, Mike. Honestly, man, I can't thank you enough for that, and for the maestro Luigi. But and he used to call me on the phone and. He left me. I still have some saved messages on an old answering machine, and just those things mean a lot to me. But yeah, we are age group, but I think that sensibility is valid for any age group. I think it's valid. It's just important musically, and without denouncing anything else, anybody who wants to stretch the boundaries in whatever way they wanted to do it. That's fine. We've all wanted to do that as well. Otherwise, we wouldn't have started playing over the bar line, or and we all wanted to develop technique and chops and things like that. But really, to be able to say what we want to say not necessarily to try to break a speed record, but
Yeah, I
that's
never.
a whole other can of worms too.
I
Right?
understand. I never thought of drumming as an RPM fan blade type thing, and I could play fairly fast for my level. I mean, because, but not compared to these guys. But back to Louis Prima, these guys would play kind of like sort of the paradiddle thing out of what uh, Louis did on Skin Deep. Man, wasn't that innovative what he did on Skin Deep? His
Oh, yeah.
language,
I've heard you play really fast, by the way, Mike.
sorta.
Good now, man. You're way more than fast enough, believe me. But yeah, you kidding? What we did on Skin Deep? I mean, those things are. You know something? The other day, get this, man. It's a friend of mine who lives in Colorado who is a really amazing videographer. Wanted to put something together where he had a bunch of drummers play a couple of bars each, and he was going to cut it together. And I think it was for a charity. I'm not sure whatever happened with it. I'm going to have to call him up and find out. Anyway, he said, I want to do this thing where each one of you plays a couple of bars of Let There Be Drums, Sandy Nelson. Remember that?
Sure.
And so anyway, he sent the original track, and I remember that from when I was a kid, right? He was another guy that brought the drums kind of to a commercial limelight, but it was cool. It had a groove, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like
He did have a groove, and he was saying something.
of course he was. You can't, yeah. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah, right.
I used to be one of those guys that was jealous drummer. And so if I heard a guy doing something I couldn't do, my immediate reaction, this is when I was 25 years old, sorry, that'll stop in a minute, that phone. My immediate reaction would be like, well, he can do this, but I bet he can't do that. Some BS. But when I got older, especially after my experience with Hancock, because you know what a deep guy he is. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Humanitarian and on. I realized that this is art. And so each of us are these beautiful human beings, and we make our art that we consider that we want people to know about us. And we do it with other people so that they can, and we help them to create this piece that we're all working on at the time that we're playing with it. And I think so that you can't then it's kind of silly to say, oh, well, he can play like Max, but he can't play like Elvin. Okay, so what? That's crazy.
No, look, man, you know what? People say stuff about me like, oh, you're a chameleon. You can move in all these different genres. And I think that the undercurrent there is that's what makes you great or something. But I came to the conclusion, for me, I started thinking that greatness is not genre specific, like what if you like, well, but he can't play punk. Maybe he doesn't want to play punk. Maybe it's because he has adult angst now and he doesn't have teen angst anymore. Maybe he just doesn't care about that. How about that? But if he does something else and it's great and he's saying something that's great, then it's great. I mean, you know what I mean? And if it just so happens that you can play other different styles, that's okay too. When I came up, it was all music. It was everything. I didn't delineate anything. I heard James Brown. I heard Sly. I heard the Beatles. I heard Miles, Train. I mean, Mahavishnu, you guys, you, Mike Clark. And, it was all coming at me, influencing me. And it was just all music, I loved it all equally. And in terms of hearing other drummers, I used to hang out with guys, and if I'd hear them do stuff that I couldn't do, I'd be like, wow, that's cool. Like I'd hear Buddy, and instead of wanting to saw my arms off, I would get inspired. And I'd get all jacked up. And even if I hung out with guys who weren't that good, but they'd come over my house and I was a kid and they'd play something, I'd get all excited and I was happy. It was because the whole experience was fun for me. Like I wasn't judging them, thinking, oh well, I just thought, oh, that's cool. Yeah, yeah, we're in this. We're both drummers, and we're sharing something that we love, and it's a great thing, isn't it? You know what I'm
It's
saying?
it's an amazing. We are so lucky that we can share, and that we've been a part of this wonderful thing. I mean, I feel at this age I am so fortunate. I mean, it's just like whoa. But yeah, me and Gaylord Birch, I'm sure you know Gaylord. We That's a fucking woo baby, and we used to set our drums up uh, at my house, like the old album Rich and Roach, and then it would be Full Contact Annihilation. And it was so much fun. It would be annihilation. I'd be like, all
Funny.
right, stop. What did you just do? Do that again. And he'd go like, what? I don't know. No, you got to do that again. And back and forth like this. We'd have the Tony records on, and Elvin. Well,
Yeah.
What happened here? What do you think? Tootie Heath, Mickey Roker,
Oh yeah.
everybody. And
That's
yeah,
crazy.
you know,
Yeah, come on. May he
oh,
rest in peace, Maestro. Oh God.
dude,
Jack,
holy,
man, forget it. He was from another planet. We used to do the same thing. Me and Steve Smith, we'd be in his shed in his backyard at his mother's house, right? And we'd have a ride cymbal, and we'd be ting 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 ting, and we'd be playing to see these up tempos to see whose arm would fall off first. And we'd be in there late at night playing along with these real fast records with a jar of peanut butter. And it's like one of us would inevitably like fall asleep be on the floor, like
yeah,
gone. But you and Gaylord, man, I can't even imagine, man.
it was
That
fantastic. I
I'm
loved it.
never gonna fly on the wall on that, man.
Yeah, well, he would take his drums out of the trunk, and I'd go out and help him. We'd have so much fun. He was such a great guy. But I want to tell you
Oh,
something kind of interesting about and then I used to hear Garibaldi before they'd ever made a record at the On Broadway, and I was already playing my style. I had never heard Dave before, and Dave had never heard me. And I walked in and I was like, we don't play like each other at all, but there's something like that going on. And I heard him and I went, wow, this guy's kind of thinking like me and Ray Torres, although I know he'd never heard Ray and he'd never heard me. And then I spoke to him, and I loved what he was doing. The band was amazing. And he came into the same club a little while ago, a little later, and approached me and he goes, I wasn't psychologically ready for what you just did because it was sort of in his ballpark and he was sort of in mine. And I love Garibaldi. I love this cat, man. He's brilliant. And in those days, he held a stick on, you know, no fulcrum like we've been over there, way back here, so he could get all that stank on it. And man,
yeah. See,
oh,
wait, dude, you just said something really important because people will be like talking about cats who do that now as if you shouldn't do that. Why not? Like, it depends on how you want to play, right? You just
yeah,
said, so he can put all that stank on it. I know
yeah,
cats who do that now. Hey, man, I've seen Steve Jordan play like that,
yes,
I've
sir.
seen our buddy Keith, I think, Carlock, I think plays pretty back there. I think.
Lenny,
And
Lenny, when he played Match, he was way back there.
right. And you know what? It's great. I mean, yeah, look at what they're doing, right? It's like if Elvin, something, man, if Elvin, can you imagine if Elvin developed a certain kind of technique where he was like a drum corps guy, we would never have had Elvin Jones. Never.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
wouldn't have the gift of Elvin. His technique was specific to his concept, and he's confounding us to this day.
yeah.
He really is.
I used to say, oh, I just have to tell you one thing here that I forgot, but I wanted to save this because you're going to like this a lot. So one time I'm with Hancock and we're in Germany on some big festival, whatever. And I'm on the stage, sound check. Sometimes sometimes I play better sound check than on the gig, because it's not loud and you can do your thing, and all that. And you're not having to crash through. And so, but anyway, I'm like, or whatever it is, the broken thing to death. even more than I could do it in the band, because some of the guys in the Headhunters were like, "That's too much. Can't you just do like Al Jackson?" And I'd be like, "No, no, but no, thank you. Let Al do that. He does it better than me. Let's not BS each other." But I was like, that thing, that broken thing, just with the and Max Roach is watching me, and I don't know it.
Oh,
Max
no.
Roach, who I later moved down the street from, and I got to know him. I lived a few blocks down from him. I'd see him constantly, be like, "Hey, drummer man," but so he comes up to me, and I'm like, "Oh my God," and he says, "What do you, I don't even know what you're doing. How do you do that?" And I said, "It's just a paradiddle type deal. And I just goof around with it, and I'll play it really slow, and I'll show you, because without you," I told him, and I said this to him several times, "I would have no career, even though it doesn't sound like it." Max Roach is a serious part of my DNA, as is Roy Haynes, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I show him the thing, and he goes, "Oh, that's what it is," and I go like, "Yeah," and he goes, "I did that on Un Poco Loco years ago. Get out of here." And I'm like, and he did. Billy Hart played it for me, and I'm like, "Oh, check it out."
Wow.
Yeah, man.
I am going to check it out.
Bro.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I think he uses a cowbell, but it's so similar that it's, and I had never even heard that,
Amazing.
Jabali goes like, "Check this out,"
Jabali. That's another one. Jabali, man. That's like the first time, I'll never forget it, man. I was in Boston, when I was a student there, and I was walking down the street, and there was this jazz club. I can't remember where it was. Something tells me it was near Copley Square. I can't remember. Anyway, I heard this music. So I went, I tried to get in, and I'm waiting to get in, and it's just steaming, right? And I'm thinking, dang, man, these guys are burning. And I finally got in, and it was because it was Stan Getz, right? And I finally got in because I'm hearing it first before I actually walked into the club. I'm waiting to get in. I got in, and when I got in and I saw them, they're still playing, and then I saw what I heard. It was like, what? It was like an illusion, and this was one of those epiphanies that, when you got hit over the head. This is one of my big ones. Here was Billy Hart playing with Stan Getz, and it's burning, right? And they're playing like this, that loud. And I thought, this can't be possible. How in the hell is he doing that? How's he steaming that hard, playing at that volume? Because a lot of times, a lot of drummers would just fold. If they started burning, and you'd say, keep that going like that, they start playing softer, they start dragging, and you know what I mean? Things like that, but not him. And it was the first time I'd ever heard that, and I'll never forget it. It was insane. I remember it distinctly. I mean, I could see it, Clint Houston was the bass player. Remember Clint Houston?
Sure I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it was amazing, and guess, but yeah, it just came to mind because of what you said, So
well,
crazy.
He's one master, in my mind, one of our master improvisers, because he just paints all of these collages and pictures, and he doesn't play the same thing too often. It's not drum stuff. He's just, man. I mean, and he's got so much
music.
Oh man.
Yeah, allmusic.com. He really is, man. I mean, M1D She and all that. Oh God.
Jimmy
when I saw that. Yeah, absolutely, man. But okay, so people are probably like, wait a second, man. No, I gotta get to actual proof. We took a big long detour.
We're swinging, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Herbie told me a story that you guys had rehearsed. You had been playing it one way, and you went into the studio, and all of a sudden, at the last second, Paul Jackson started playing something different, and it changed the whole thing, and it became the recording that we all heard. And to me, that's like there are no accidents. That was like some cosmic intervention that laid the groundwork for that thing to be documented like the freaking Mona Lisa of jazz funk, man. But you got to is that how it happened?
Here's what else happened, if I may. Yes, that's how it
I got to
happened.
hear it.
Also, what
Tell us.
happened, David Rubinson came in, and I was playing Actual Proof the way I play it, and he said, "Stop. Nobody's gonna know where one is. It's too much shit. What is all that?" And he sat behind my drum set, and he went, "Here's what I want you to play. This is real. This is not a lie. I don't hate the guy, but this is what he did." And he played just enough eighth grade drums to make him dangerous on a record date. And he went, you know, the offbeat thing on the cymbal, like doom, bat, ding, ding, da, ding. And he went do ba da do 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 da da do 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 da ding do 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 da ding da ga da ga do ga do ga bish. And he goes like that kind of thing. And I was ready to punch him out. I was right there. Yes, sir. Thank you. That was it. So, you know, my mother's Italian. I was raised Italian. So that side of me, you know, and yeah, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to pretend to go to the bathroom and chant because Herbie had just taught me to chant. So I snuck in another room at Wally Heider's studio, and I chanted 20 minutes. I stayed gone a long time, and here was my prayer because I was young. I wanted to be immortalized in jazz like Elvin and those guys. I know it sounds silly now, like Elvin, you're right, Clark. But I was 25 or something, you know, and so I'm like, no, and I go back down, and Herbie's not saying a word. And David Rubinson said, and I said to him, instead of confronting him and being angry, which I was, I said, you know, that's a good idea, but we're not used to playing it that way. And he goes, all right, then you got one chance to do it. And if you don't get it in that, you're doing it in my way. And we went, okay. Hancock never said a word. He counted it off, and there it is. And I was afraid to go listen to it because I didn't know what had happened. All I know is I closed my eyes and just played all the music that I wasn't fighting or trying. It was real. I knew that. We were really talking to each other. But then I was like, geez, I wonder, do I dare even go in there? He's mad, and it was a bad vibe. And so I go in, and him and Hancock are listening to it, and they're like, come on. And I go in, and Hancock high-fives me and goes, you just made history, brother. And David Rubinson says, thank you for arguing with me. And of course, I'm thinking, did a Coltrane have to argue to play good? Like, what do you mean? But I didn't say that because, you know, I just didn't want to be it was already a little strange. And then I listened to it. They played it back for me, and I was like, not bad, Clark, not bad. And and Paul changed the bass line. And you know what happened? It was just like what we were talking about. It was one of those moments while I'm alive on earth where all of us closed our eyes and just played who we were. And they caught it on tape. That's what happened, you know. But I had to do a little dance.
Mike, you know, when you said that you went in there and Hancock said you just made history, took the words out of my mouth. It's like, what happened? History. You definitely made history. That is like carved in the rock of history. I mean, it's so important. It's so important to so many of us. It was and is still so important to me.
Wow.
It really is. And that's an amazing story. And it just goes to show you that to me, it almost sounds like that's just what was supposed to happen. And it was supposed to happen. And that's why you went in and chanted about it. And that's why David did that before you started chanting about it. And then you came out and Paul Jackson changed the bass line. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, am I arguing, you know, determinism versus free will? Not really. It's a paradox. Both. It's a floor wax and a toothpaste, buddy. It's everything. They both, yeah. You know, we have free will, but some things are just meant to be, you know, and that was definitely meant to be. And I'm Mike, I'm a firm believer. Like to me, that's like a painting. And you know, now I have been playing that song myself with Herbie for, you know, 15 years now, and it's gone where it's gone. But to me, it would not have happened. None of that could have happened if it wasn't for what you guys did. None of it. And to me, that's still the sculpture. that will always need to be what it is. I'm sort of like, some things should just be left alone. I know a lot of people will disagree with me, and as much and as I love playing it, I listen to that and I'm like, that's the definitive version forever. And it was supposed to be that way. And
Oh, shit.
like, some people think that records are like a point of departure, they should evolve and songs should evolve. And yeah, I mean, okay, but
Yeah,
there's a part of me
yeah.
that thinks there's a part of me that also thinks that there's a reason why things were represented and documented on the original record to be listened to forever, because that's how you're documenting it. Like I've heard so many bands go out and play their stuff live, and all of a sudden it's too fast and it sounds stupid and jittery. You know what I mean? They don't play at the record tempo. They think it should be more exciting, and it just sounds like amateur hour. You know what I mean? To me, it's like, no,
I've
what are you
been
guys doing?
guilty of that
Stupid.
myself.
Huh?
I'm
What's
sorry, I
that?
interrupted. I say I've been
No.
guilty of that myself.
Well, we all have, but and so I've thought about that over the years, going like, no, no, don't do that. It just sounds dumb, and or like, like Beatles. To me, it's like my whole thing of hearing them is the entirety of the production, everything together. It's documented the way it's supposed to be. Maybe that's why they didn't really play live much after their first, initial impact, because they documented it, and this is it. This is the painting. These are the paintings, and that's just how I see that stuff, a lot of that stuff.
You
And
know,
to me, actual proof. Yeah.
I one time I played Resolution and the other swing tempo, the medium. I forget the name of it now. Love Supreme, and we've all for me. I've been that is stamped into my brain for infinity. I listened to it so much, especially when I was young and stoned. You know what I mean? It was just like, man, and I also have a great Elvin story if there's time later that you'll. Oh my God! But I'm sure you do too. But by the way, your solos on Actual Proof were genius. I listened to them, bro. I'm sorry, that was off the chain. But whoo, I mean, I'd be like, wait a minute, what? Dun dun dun. I mean, oh God. But what the hell was I talking about? I went off the beam there. I'm sorry.
You said you got an Elvin story to tell me later. That was one thing.
Yeah,
And I was talking about, huh? Yeah, Love Supreme.
So this guy called me for a gig. He's going to play some Coltrane stuff. Great. And we end up playing Resolution and I can't think of the name of that one. But I know every note from everybody, not the drums, everybody, it's pounded into my brain. And as is Little Richard's music and James Brown. But so I'm playing and I'm even making the face like a fool, like Elvin, and I'm like, it's bash, on and on. And then all of a sudden I went, what the hell am I doing? This is bullshit. I'm not. And then what am I doing? And then all of a sudden that reduced me to dang, chang, to dang, chang. I'm like, oh God. And the tenor player like, what's going on? And I just felt like, now on that particular piece, that's a Picasso hanging in the. There's nothing to do with that, and I just never want to attempt to play that stuff again. It's fun, but wow. As you
no, I know what you mean. And you said it's fun, and if you do it in a certain kind of spirit, but you almost can't help, what you were saying before, like the whole thing of, well, yeah, I'm going to put that face on here, because it's so profound that you say, wait a minute, I'm not that,
Exactly.
that's, I mean, I'm speaking for myself now, it's like, let me just, be something different. Oh, that's funny, man. I hear you. So,
Yeah,
but with the risk of contradicting myself, talking about, Actual Proof, and that's the way that it was, documented forever. Then there's this record called Flood. Holy mackerel. I mean, it just shows. But see, here's the thing. It's the same people playing it. You were the one that documented it. You and Paul Jackson and Herbie, you guys documented it. And so if you're going to, if it's going to go to another level, it's going to go to another level based on the same DNA, right? It's just a mixture of the same recipe. That's how I see it. But that record blew my mind. Just when I thought the original record couldn't, I thought this is it. You guys come out with that. It's like, you want to tell me a little bit about that record, Mike?
I do. You're a delightful cat, man. I love I love not that you're because you're saying nice things about Flood and all that.
No, but it's true.
You got great energy, bro. All right, so here's the story. Now this is going to wax you out. You're not going to believe this story. This is out. So we did Flood, but not the Flood you heard. Do you know this story?
No.
And this will be kind of cool. So we show up chanting 2 hours, me and Hancock, I'm spiffy. I'm ready to record live. The studio's there. It's a live thing, big audience, a couple of thousand, maybe 1,500, who knows, something like that big. And we play it. It's the best I've ever played up to that level on a live show that was recorded. And we went back and listened to it in the sound truck. And I, who am never happy with what happened, I'm not neurotically crushed, but I'm not happy with my playing hardly ever. I'm not unhappy, but I'm like, shit. But I'm like, yeah, all right. And it wasn't that there was any more things going on that I'd never heard any of us do before. And it was just that it was so unusually synced up that I couldn't even believe it. And I was like, damn. And so what do? Herbie, me, Paul, and Bill go to this big party that Sony threw us, and we take it out. We party till 5 a.m., and it's a food fight. We're having a food fight. Herbie Hancock, too, shit all over it, man, pie or noodles or whatever, man. We're cursing each other out, not mad, but playing, like, me and Paul talking a bunch of street, the whole nine. We just took it there. So next morning we wake up, and we got to go to Osaka. So we fly, everybody's sound asleep on the plane. We get there, we roll in, and there's a sound truck there. What we were doing was celebrating that we thought we played this music really pretty well. Why is the sound truck there, Herbie? Well, David thought he'll record another night, which was not part of the deal we had made. We're like, another night? We're whomped, we're hungover, we're wasted. And I said, David won't, all respect to David as a businessman, he won't know a good night from a bad night. I told that to Herbie, and he said, don't worry, I got it. I'm like, let's just play. If it's not that good, don't worry about it. So what you heard was the hungover night. It's true.
Get out of here. Don't, no.
I swear to God, it's true.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And we were off. Paul and I.
No.
We walked off the stage. Like
that's
this.
A bad joke on us. That's a bad joke, man. How could you do that? Play that good, that messed up, and you're telling me that we missed the better night? You're serious?
Sony has it. They called me about it, but never released it.
Get out of here.
Herbie has it.
No.
Yeah. It's no more chops or no more grooves, but it's just like right on the, yeah.
Well, that's like, that's like, some of those Miles records where they released all these alternate takes, and at some point you go, okay, well, I can see why they chose that take. And other times you go, man, that must have been hard to pick, and so you just want to hear another version of it. But it's you guys had it's the original DNA. So if you said it was more synced up, great. I mean, I hope
we snuck in under the wire. The way I look at it, it's not that it was well anyway. But you know what? Here's the good part about that. I guess it's life. That's how life ain't perfect. And okay, we celebrated.
No, yeah.
Hey,
but that's amazing. That's an amazing story, man. That wasn't the good night. I mean, come on, man. You know, that's crazy. That reminds me of I remember Chick, me rest in peace. I was asking him one time about. I'm like, man, you know, when you guys did Now He Sings, Now He Sobs. I mean, what did you think when you went in the control room and heard that back? And if my memory serves me correctly, I believe that he said to me, "No, we went and had lunch. They just hit it and quit it like it was a gig and let it go. There wasn't like, oh, let's do 100 more takes and let's yeah, cool guys, or I could have done that better. They hit it and so some of those guys did that, and it's amazing to me to think. I mean, we can go on for hours, Mike. I mean, this is crazy, man. But man, thank you for sharing that story, and I hope the other version of that comes out someday. Just selfishly, but those records shaped me. They shaped me. They were the most important records of my musical upbringing. I mean, like I there was a lot of records like that in like Weather Report live in Tokyo. I mean, there's a lot of records from that, yeah, that were very, very important to me, and thank you for being a part of that, man. I
Thank
just
you.
yeah, hats off. You want to tell
Yes.
that quick Elvin story before we say? Hey,
Yeah, I wanted to ask you something, if I may.
yeah.
Um, did you have a big band experience, or did you just go? You could read, and you just went in and did it, and had the concept in your head.
For big band stuff.
Yeah, did you do that as a kid or as a? I don't know.
Uh, you know what? High school stage band, yeah,
Okay.
that counts. That counts because it was part of my whole educational pedagogy, and coming up, we had that kind of support. We had that kind of support, and they took us seriously, if they wanted to develop that talent that they saw. So I had that, and then when I got to Berkeley, there were several little recording ensembles. There was a main recording band and a couple of satellite recording bands, and I got to play in a couple of those, and not the main one with Herb Pomeroy, but and some ensembles, and I was like a reading nerd, so I learned how to read, and that included big band charts, and I was listening to that music, while I was in these high school and junior high and senior high stage bands. We were all listening to Maynard, Stan Kenton, Buddy, Woody, all those bands. We listened to everything. We ate it up. Thad Jones, Mel Lewis. I mean, really great stuff. And so it's just all part of my upbringing, I guess, and
Yeah,
I could
I
just,
love how you play in the big band. It's great, and it's you, and it's really beautiful, man. It's like
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
I have some good memories of seeing some of these camps too. I went to a camp once, a Stan Kenton stage band camp, and the drummer at the time was he was called John Von Olen. Kenton called him Baron, the Baron John Von Olen, right? And he was the first guy I ever saw splash the hi hat with the heel of his foot, and that's how I learned that from him, and a lot of little things like that. And we saw these guys coming up, people like Roy Burns giving clinics and all these.
Oh,
There was a lot of great education back then. It was real education, not just short clips of lick of the day. It was real educational stuff. But thank you for asking, Mike. So you want to tell us your Elvin story before we say
okay.
ta-da?
I'll just tell you this quickly. I worked Vegas for a couple of years, and I saw Sonny Payne every night for 2 weeks, and it blew me. I'm still devastated. PTSD. He was so great. Whoa. And Buddy.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
my own story. Okay, we're in Cleveland. We're going to play the Smiling Dog, which is an old jazz joint the cat's been playing forever. And I'm with Hancock. And so Herbie says, "Hey, I'm going to go to the club and hear Elvin." I'm like, "Elvin's playing?" "Yeah," because we got in town the night before we opened. So I went with him, and we get in the club, and Elvin's sitting at the bar. And Herbie goes over and talks to him. And then he comes over to me and says, Jones wants to talk to you at the bar. I'm like, he wants to talk to me? Elvin Jones was like meeting God for me.
Tell me about it.
And so, all right. So, I'm scared, of course. I don't know why, but I was. And I go back, and Elvin's like, hey, you want? And he had a bottle of Seagram's VO and no mix. And he goes, you want a drink? And of course, I was young and I like to drink. And I'm like, yeah. So he pushes the bottle and we drink out of the bottle. And he's drinking his butt off. And I'm joining him. And Hancock, I don't think drank out of the bottle, but he was having a taste of some kind himself. And it's the only time I heard Herbie defer to anybody. You know how Herbie's kind of like talks fast, like, hey man, yeah, and the hand, he was just always zap, this type of thing, like Herbie Hancock. But when Elvin was there, he became like me. We were both like, oh no, really? And Elvin's holding court, man. He's like, yeah, drink some more of this shit. And then I'm asking him about all these questions about what he did with Coltrane. Not what he played, but what was it like? What was Coltrane like? What's going on, Jimmy Garrison, McCoy? And he's telling me stuff. He's free with it. He's like, oh, yeah, well, first of all, and then he's just ripping. And then he says to us, and this is true, he says, and Herbie's right there, and he goes, why don't you guys come up by the stage? I'm going to show you how I did it with John. Now, he's had quite a few, but he can handle it. We go up, and we sit right next to his hi-hat, but nobody can see us. We have two chairs, me and Herbie. And Vinny, I've never seen Elvin. I've seen him 30 times by then, probably at the Keystone all the time and all over the place, whatever. I never heard anybody that I play that much music and raise that much. He changed the molecules in the room, and it got so heavy that every time he would go on a run, and we're following these, even though these runs are really, I don't know what he's playing, but I'm following every note. I'm hearing how it hits to Liebman and Grossman and Perla. I'm like, damn. And then he'd come out, crash. And Herbie and I started yelling like he just made a basket. And now we're like, and we're going off, man. It was glorious. And then, and I'm just like, oh, and Herbie, he's playing for you, Mike, because he's looking like that. Yeah, motherfucker. I'm just like, oh my God. Yeah, man, he's ripped, man. And people are like, well, was it triplets? Was it? I don't fucking know. Like,
oh, I know. That is insane, right? He rearranged your DNA.
He did.
Okay, you know what? I think one of my batteries is going to run out of here pretty soon. But I have a similar Elvin thing, but my experience where it just messed me up was he was playing at the Jazz Bakery, and he played just the ride cymbal only for about 8 minutes, and he reinvented time. It wasn't the jazz, it wasn't Elvin that you'd think. And I left the club and I sat outside there for about 10 minutes by myself on a bench like this. I couldn't figure out what happened to me. Wow. He was such a profound force of nature. Thank you for sharing that story. And
wow.
Yeah, man. So we'll leave on a high note. And without the typical what's next for Mike Clark and this, that, and the other thing, I know you're going to be doing amazing things. You got gigs coming up. You're going to continue to blow our minds. And this to me is just is a beautiful hang, brother. It really is, man. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you doing this, Mike, and just getting a chance to hang with you, bro, and impart all this to everybody.
Thank you. Listen, you're one of my favorite artists. I can't thank you enough. I'm honored that you asked me, and this was a hell of a lot of fun. And hey, this is art. This is art too. We're improvising. This is a moment of our lives while we're alive. I love this, and thank you, brother.
Amen. Amen. And you as well, my brother. God bless you, man, and thank you for being who you are. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode of Breakfast with Vinny.